Welcome to the Inner Code, the space where science meets spirit, where ancient wisdom is not just remembered, but reborn for today's mind, and where the quantum universe itself leans in to listen. Here we explore truths that refuse to stay confined to dusty books or whispered philosophies. We dive into the hidden architecture of reality. Today, we're bringing together two worlds that were never meant to meet, yet fit together perfectly. What if the universe isn't out there at all, but in here? What if the dreamer, the scientist, the mystic, and the physicist are all pointing to the same astonishing truth? Neville Goddard said, "Imagination creates reality." For decades, that sounded like mystical poetry, beautiful but unverifiable. But what if modern quantum physics is beginning to show us the blueprint of that very truth? In this journey, you're going to see, and more importantly, feel, the bridges between Neville's teachings and the latest discoveries in physics. You'll hear why the observer effect is more than a theory, why your assumptions shape the very particles of your life, and how science is quietly catching up to the mystics. Before we begin, make sure you subscribe not just to this channel, but to the life you truly desire. Tap that notification bell so you never miss a truth that could rewrite your reality. And when you finish this journey, share it with someone who's ready for their own quantum leap. Now, take a deep breath, because by the time you reach the end, you might never look at reality the same way again. Somewhere in the depths of your mind, a question has been waiting, quietly, patiently, for you to be ready to ask it. What is reality? Not in the casual way we toss the question around, but in the raw, unsettling way that shakes the ground beneath your assumptions. We've been taught to see the universe as something out there, a vast mechanical stage where events play out and we, the fragile audience, watch from the shadows. We've been told the stars burn billions of light years away, the planets spin by the cold laws of physics, and that everything from the birth of a galaxy to the beat of your heart is the product of chance and impersonal forces. But what if the stage was never out there? What if the screen of reality was not the sky, but your own awareness? Neville Goddard, a man who walked this earth in the 20th century with the calm certainty of someone who had seen behind the curtain, declared a truth so radical that it was dismissed by most as mysticism. Your imagination creates reality, not influences it, not affects it, creates it. And for decades, this idea lived in the realm of philosophy and spiritual teaching, beautiful, inspiring, but scientifically unverified. Then came the whispers from another world, the laboratories of modern physics. And those whispers began to sound strangely familiar, because in those cold, fluorescent-lit rooms, where scientists fired electrons through slits and stared into the heart of matter, something deeply unsettling emerged. The universe does not behave like a fixed, solid machine. At its smallest level, it behaves like a dream. In 1801, Thomas Young's double-slit experiment revealed that light, that steady, dependable thing that allows us to see the world, could behave both as a particle and as a wave. It was as if reality itself couldn't make up its mind until it was observed. Fast forward over a century, and quantum mechanics sharpened this unsettling truth. The act of observing changes the outcome. The observer effect, they called it. Now pause for a moment and let that sink in. The physical world waits for the observer before deciding what form to take. The universe does not collapse into a definite reality until consciousness looks upon it. Neville had been saying it all along. You are the operant power. Assumption hardens into fact. Science was supposed to be the enemy of such mystical claims, and yet, here it was, standing on the same stage, quietly admitting that reality is not as objective as we once thought. Let's bring this down to where you live. Every event, every circumstance, every relationship you've ever experienced, you believe they were things you stumbled into, outcomes you reacted to. But what if they were ripples in a sea you were unconsciously stirring all along? Neville's teachings were not about wishing, not about begging the universe like a distant landlord. They were about knowing, about stepping into the state of the wish fulfilled so completely that reality bends to match the certainty you carry within. And here is where quantum physics nods in agreement. When a quantum particle exists in multiple potential states, what they call a superposition, it remains undefined until observation collapses it into one outcome. Your life is like that superposition. Infinite possibilities exist until you observe and assume one as real. The mystic calls it faith. The physicist calls it wave function collapse. Two languages, one truth. Neville understood something most of us miss. The world of facts is not primary, it is secondary. Your inner state is the source, the outer world is the echo. But in our modern world, we have been hypnotized into chasing the echo, trying to rearrange effects while ignoring the cause. It's like standing in front of a mirror, angry at the reflection for not smiling. Modern physics has shown us that at the smallest scale, reality is a probability cloud, a shimmering field of potential. What collapses it into your lived experience is not brute force, not effort, but your focus, your sustained attention wrapped in belief. Neville called this the feeling of the wish fulfilled. To the scientist, it's the interaction of consciousness with the quantum field, but here lies the paradox and the power. Most people believe only after they see. Neville taught to see within and believe before, so that what you believe becomes what you see. Quantum mechanics agrees. The act of measurement doesn't just reveal reality, it helps create it. And you, whether you know it or not, are measuring your world every moment with the instrument of your awareness. Every assumption you hold about money, love, health, opportunity is like an observation in the quantum realm, collapsing infinite possibilities into a single experience. You think it's just the way things are, but it's the way things are because it's the way you've observed them to be. Change the observation, and the reality follows. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine your life as a vast quantum field. Every possible version of you existing in potential. The wealthy you, the healed you, the loved you, the fulfilled you. Each one as real as the other, until you decide where to place your gaze. Neville's words echo here like a law written in the stars. Dare to believe in the reality of your assumption and watch the world respond. This isn't poetry, it's physics in action. And yet most live unaware, letting the field collapse into the same old patterns day after day because they never dare to assume differently. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The universe is not deciding for you. It is offering through you. You are not a passenger in the ship of reality. You are the captain, the compass, and the ocean itself. Neville's great gift was showing that this isn't reserved for mystics or saints. It belongs to anyone willing to take responsibility for their inner world. Modern physics, in its own way, is catching up, revealing that consciousness is not a byproduct of matter, but perhaps the stage upon which matter itself appears. Which means that every moment you stand at the threshold of infinite possibilities. And the key to stepping through is not effort, but awareness. Because once you know that the observer shapes the observed, you stop asking, will it happen, and start living as though it already has. The leap, the true quantum leap, is not about moving through space faster or leaping over time. It's about shifting the state of the observer. It's about becoming the version of you for whom the desire is already real, here, now, and letting the universe rearrange itself around that certainty. Neville put it simply, assume it, and it is so. Modern physics whispers the same, observe it, and it becomes. And in the quiet space where those truths meet, a new kind of power is born. If you're ready, we will step deeper into this space, beyond the comfort of old beliefs, beyond the limits of what you've been told is possible. We will walk together into the shimmering field where imagination and quantum reality are not strangers, but one and the same. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The first thing you must understand, truly understand, not just nod politely to, is that you are not in the universe. You are the universe, observing itself from a unique point of awareness. Modern physics calls the foundation of reality the quantum field, an invisible ocean of energy and possibility from which every particle, every atom, every star is born. Neville called it imagination. Different words, same origin. The quantum field is not a distant place. It is here, now, in the space between your thoughts, in the silence behind your heartbeat. It contains every possible configuration of matter and circumstance, from the mundane to the miraculous. Every version of you exists there. Every timeline you could walk is already real there. When you close your eyes and imagine something vividly, you are not making it up. You are tuning into one of those possibilities. You are, as the physicists would say, selecting a frequency in the infinite spectrum of the field. But here's the part that bends the mind. The field does not choose for you. It reflects what you hold to be true. Neville's instruction was always this: feel it real, not wish, not hope, but feel as though it were already accomplished. This is not daydreaming, this is alignment. This is collapsing the infinite into the specific through the instrument of your consciousness. To the scientist, it's the same principle as the collapse of the wave function. A particle doesn't decide where it is until observed. Your life is the same. Until you hold a vision, it remains fluid. The moment you claim it, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, it crystallizes into fact. This is why most people never see real change. They keep observing the same old reality. They measure life by what is instead of what they choose to see. They wake up in the same environment, think the same thoughts, feel the same emotions, and the quantum field obediently mirrors it back. The observer effect works perfectly, but unconsciously. Neville's genius was to flip this. He taught deliberate observation, to see within before it's visible without, to measure life by the standard of your desire, not your current condition. He would tell his students to construct scenes in the mind, short, sensory-rich moments implying that their wish was already fulfilled. Not vague fantasies, but specific states they could inhabit. Because once you occupy a state fully, it begins to express itself as fact in the outer world. And science, in its cautious way, nods. When you measure the spin of an electron, the result you get depends on the question you ask. The outcome is not just out there, it's entangled with the very act of measurement. Likewise, when you measure your life through the lens of poverty, you collapse into more lack. When you measure it through the lens of abundance, you collapse into more opportunity. The question you ask reality is answered with the matching form. Now let's take this further. Quantum entanglement, the strange, proven fact that two particles can be connected across any distance, instantly affecting each other, is perhaps the most mystical of all discoveries. Change one particle and the other changes no matter how far apart. Neville would have smiled at this, because in his language, everything is entangled. Not just particles, but events, circumstances, and people. When you change your inner state, the outer world, even across continents, shifts to match. That's why your inner work doesn't push reality, it reorganizes it. You are not sending signals into the void, you are altering the fabric of the field itself. When Neville told a woman to sleep in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, he wasn't speaking metaphorically. He was telling her to entangle herself with the reality she desired, until the connection was so complete that separation was impossible. And once that connection is made, reality has no choice but to reflect it. Most people think manifestation is about effort, about doing more, working harder, forcing the conditions to change. But that's like trying to rearrange the reflection in the mirror without touching your own face. The real shift happens here, in the invisible realm of assumption. You can be sitting perfectly still, eyes closed, and yet altering the course of your life more profoundly than years of struggle could accomplish. This is not passivity, this is precision. This is taking the scalpel of your attention and carving out the reality you will inhabit. There is another quantum parallel that changes everything. In physics, the vacuum, the space that seems empty, is not empty at all. It's alive with potential, with virtual particles appearing and disappearing faster than we can measure. Neville's equivalent, the silence of your mind. That space you fill with thought and feeling is not a void, it's fertile. It's the womb of creation. When you dwell in fear, that field takes the shape of fear. When you dwell in gratitude, that field blooms with matching forms. The field does not judge, it reflects. And here's the thing, the field is instant. It is only our conditioning, our clinging to the facts of the current reality, that slows the unfolding. The moment you release the old assumption and hold to the new, the field begins reorganizing. Sometimes it's subtle, a conversation, a sudden idea, a chance meeting. Sometimes it's dramatic, a door opens where there was once a wall. But in either case, it is law. This is where the so-called mystical teachings become deeply practical. If you understand that you are always collapsing possibilities through observation, then your job is no longer to fight the old reality, it's to stop observing it as fixed. Neville said, "You must make your future dream a present fact by assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled." Modern physics might phrase it as, select the desired state from the quantum field through consistent observation. Different words, same act, same power. Here is where we break the illusion. You are not at the mercy of external forces. The job you lost, the relationship that ended, the diagnosis you received, these are not sentences, they are states. And states can be shifted. When you occupy a new state, you no longer ask, how will it happen, because the how belongs to the field. Your task is the who. Who are you being? That is the only real question. And the answer, once chosen, is like a pebble dropped into the infinite pond. The ripples move outward, touching every particle, every possibility, until the outer world matches the inner declaration. Imagine it now. You lying down tonight, closing your eyes, not in resignation, but in deliberate creation. You imagine the touch of the steering wheel of your new car, the sound of laughter in the home you own, the warmth of the hand you hold. You feel it as now, not someday, now. And as you drift to sleep, the field stirs. Particles arrange, events shift, people feel impulses they cannot explain. Doors you never knocked on begin to open. This is not magic, it is mechanics, the mechanics of consciousness. By now you may be starting to feel it, that subtle but undeniable hum, as if the room around you is alive in a new way. That's because it always was. You're simply noticing the truth. You have never been separate from the creative field. Neville lived in this knowing. The scientist measures it in equations, the mystic lives it in experience, but both are speaking about you. You are the field, you are the observer, you are the collapse, and the moment you choose, truly choose, the rest of the universe aligns. The shift begins the moment you recognize that you are not a passive witness to reality, you are its author. And authors do not wait for stories to write themselves. From the vantage point of ordinary thinking, life appears linear, cause, effect, past, present, future. We believe the future is something we approach step by step, like walking toward a distant city on the horizon. But the truth, and Neville knew this long before science began hinting at it, is that the future exists now. Every possible version of your life is already written in the quantum field, shimmering in potential. You do not travel to it, you select it. And the instrument of that selection is not your feet, it's your state of being. Think of it this way. A radio station is broadcasting a song right now, but you can't hear it until you tune the dial to its frequency. Once you match the frequency, the music is instantly clear. The field works the same way. Your desire, the wealth, the love, the health is broadcasting at a specific frequency. When you match it internally, you receive it externally. Neville called this living in the end, embodying the version of you who already has the desire, not pretending, not hoping, but accepting it as your present identity. And here's the marvel. Quantum theory describes a similar principle in what's called resonance. When two systems share the same frequency, energy transfer is effortless and immediate. So when you align with the state of the wish fulfilled, you are not dragging reality toward you. You are resonating with it, and the exchange happens naturally. But alignment is not a mental trick. It is not forcing affirmations through clenched teeth while fear hums beneath the surface. True alignment is the quiet, deep knowing that what you have imagined is already yours. Neville's students would often protest, "But it feels like lying to myself." And he would smile and say, "You are lying to yourself all the time when you accept your limitations as truth. This lie is simply the one that sets you free." Modern physics, though reluctant to cross into the territory of the mystical, admits something fascinating. At the quantum level, the past is not fixed. In certain experiments, the act of measurement now seems to change what was. If this is true, and mounting evidence suggests it is, then time itself is far more malleable than we've been led to believe. Neville would not have been surprised. He taught that you can revise the past, not by altering history books, but by altering your memory of an event and living as though the revision were always true. You see the symmetry? Quantum mechanics whispers, the past is influenced by the present. Neville shouts, change your assumption now, and your history rearranges to match. Here's an example. You recall a job interview that went poorly. Every time you think of it, you feel disappointment. Neville would have you enter a quiet state. Imagine the same interview, but with a joyful ending. The handshake, the smile, the "you're hired." You dwell in that scene until it feels more real than the memory of failure. And then you go on living as the person who was hired. Soon, in ways that defy logic, opportunities appear, perhaps even from the same company, as if the universe adjusted itself to the new storyline. From the outside, it looks like coincidence. From within, it is law. The scientist might still resist the language of imagination, but he will admit that in the quantum realm, events are not locked into a single sequence until they are observed. And you, as the observer, are free to choose how you observe. This is the throne of the observer, the seat from which reality bends. There is, however, a challenge here. Most people are addicted to their present reality, not consciously but emotionally. They wake each day and let the same surroundings dictate their state. They watch the evidence in the outer world and assume it is the cause when it is the effect. and so they remain tuned to the same frequency, receiving the same broadcast. Neville's solution was radical. Turn away from the facts if they do not match your desire. Not in denial of reality, but in recognition of a deeper one. When you dare to do this, you withdraw your observation from the undesired state, starving it of energy. The field has no choice but to collapse into a different outcome. But here's the deeper layer, one even seasoned manifestors sometimes miss. It's not enough to imagine for a few minutes and then return to your old state. The quantum field responds to your dominant vibration, the sustained frequency of your being. This is why Neville emphasized persistence. Not persistence in action, but persistence in assumption. When you catch yourself drifting back to doubt, you gently return to the feeling of the wish fulfilled. When the outer world offers no proof, you refuse to be shaken, because you know the proof follows the assumption, not the other way around. To the physicist, this persistence is akin to maintaining a coherent signal, holding a laser beam steady on a single point until the material responds. The light does not flicker between targets. It remains locked, and so the transformation is inevitable. You are that beam, and your assumption is the light you shine into the field. Let's make this living for you now. Close your eyes and choose one desire, not 10, not 5, just one. See it not as a far-off dream, but as a current possession. Feel the air in that reality, hear the sounds, notice the expressions on the faces of those around you. Let it settle in your body until you can no longer tell the difference between imagining and remembering. Now open your eyes and carry that version of you into the next moment, not as a fragile hope, but as an unshakable identity. You may notice nothing change in the next hour, or you may see a spark, a message, a meeting, a sign so precise it stops you in your tracks. Either way, the field has already shifted. The bridge of incidents is being built. And this is where we touch the great secret. Manifestation is not about summoning something from nothing. It is about stepping into the version of reality where it already exists. Neville's living in the end and quantum theory's superposition collapse are two expressions of the same law. The state you occupy determines the reality you experience. Once you truly grasp this, you stop chasing outcomes and start choosing states. And the states bring the outcomes. The throne of the observer is not earned, it is claimed. Right now in this moment, you can choose to sit in it. You can choose to see not with the eyes in your head, but with the vision of your imagination, the very instrument by which the universe knows what to become. And once you see from there, you will wonder how you ever thought reality was solid at all. The truth is not something you visit during meditation and then leave behind when you return to real life. The truth is that your inner state is always writing the script, whether you're conscious of it or not. Neville taught that the feeling is the secret. Modern physics suggests that emotional states could be more than biochemical experiences. They might be vibrational instructions to the quantum field. Every time you feel something, you are tuning yourself like an instrument. Gratitude, joy, certainty, these are coherent frequencies that align with desired outcomes. Doubt, fear, resentment, these scatter your signal, and the field reflects that static back to you. The world doesn't punish or reward you for emotions in a moral sense. It simply mirrors them, like a perfect but indifferent photographer. It captures the picture you present without judgment. And so the first practical step in living as the quantum architect is state selection. Not, what do I want? But, who am I being? Every morning, before you check your phone, before you scroll through yesterday's evidence, you sit quietly and choose the state you will carry into the day, not as a fantasy, but as an identity. Neville would have you construct a scene, not long, not complicated, that implies the wish fulfilled. It could be as simple as hearing someone say, "Congratulations," or feeling the weight of keys in your hand. You play that scene, until it feels natural, inevitable. Then, and this is the part most people miss, you rise and live from it. You don't wait for proof to appear. You are the proof. From a quantum perspective, you are setting the measurement device of your consciousness to a specific reading, and the field will align its particles accordingly. If your state is the version of me who has already succeeded, the field must reflect conditions that match that success. Not because of magic, but because you have stopped observing the version of reality where success is absent. But there's another layer: persistence without strain. You do not hammer the state into place through constant mental effort. Instead, you return to it gently but firmly whenever you drift. Neville called this falling asleep in the wish fulfilled, ending your day in the same state you chose in the morning, so your subconscious can work uninterrupted through the night. To the physicist, this is simply maintaining coherence, holding a signal long enough for the wave function to collapse into a stable outcome. And here's where daily life becomes your laboratory. Every interaction, every event, every moment is an opportunity to either reinforce your chosen state or abandon it. You see a bank statement that contradicts your abundance, you breathe, and you return to the feeling of wealth. You hear a medical report that challenges your health, you return to the feeling of wholeness. You do not deny the data, you simply refuse to let it define you. Because you know the data is an echo, not the cause, and an echo has no choice but to follow the original sound. Neville often told his students, do not try to change the world, change your conception of yourself, and the world will follow. Quantum physics backs this with an almost eerie parallel. In experiments, it is not the external apparatus that determines the outcome, but the system as a whole, observer included. Change the observer and the observed shifts. When you change your state, you are not battling circumstances, you are reconfiguring the entire system of your reality. There is a temptation, however, to check if it's working, to peek into the oven before the bread has risen. This is the trap that breaks coherence. The field does not respond to desperation masked as hope. It responds to certainty. Certainty does not check. Certainty knows. When you plant a seed, you do not dig it up every hour to see if it's growing. You water it, protect it, and live as though harvest is assured. Neville lived this way. His miracles were simply the inevitable harvests of seeds he had already accepted as real. Here's a daily structure you can live by, not as rigid rules, but as a rhythm for the soul. Morning calibration. Upon waking, select your state. See it, feel it, name it, occupy it. Midday recalibration. Notice your state. If it has drifted, return without self-criticism. Evening embodiment. Before sleep, replay the fulfilled state. Drift off as the person who already lives there. Over time, this rhythm makes the state more natural than the old identity. And once the new state becomes your default, reality conforms without resistance. There's a concept in quantum theory called path of least action. Systems naturally take the route that requires the least energy to achieve a result. When you live in the end, you align yourself with that path. The field rearranges circumstances in ways you could never predict, opening doors you didn't know existed. To the outside world, it looks miraculous. To you, it feels inevitable. Neville's most advanced students understood this. You are not manifesting things. You are manifesting yourself. And the self you manifest determines the things that follow. The car, the house, the relationship, these are shadows cast by the state you occupy. Focus on the shadow, and it shifts only temporarily. Focus on the light, the state, and the shadow transforms automatically. And here's the final daily key: gratitude as an anchor. Gratitude is not a polite thank you to the universe. It is the emotional evidence that you already have what you desire. When you feel gratitude for something not yet visible, you are behaving exactly as you would if it were already here. And in the language of the field, that behavior is the selection. Neville knew this without formulas. Science is now confirming it through studies showing that gratitude alters brainwave patterns, increasing coherence and shifting perception. You see, living as the quantum architect is not about adding something to yourself. It's about removing the lie that you are powerless. And once that lie is gone, you realize the same thing Neville realized, the same thing quantum theory whispers from the chalkboards of physicists. Reality is not out there, waiting to be discovered. Reality is in here, waiting to be chosen. At some point in your journey, there comes a moment when you can no longer pretend you are at the mercy of the world. You feel it, a subtle but undeniable shift, where life stops being something that happens to you and becomes something that happens through you. Neville lived in this space, not as a theory, but as the air he breathed. He knew that imagination was not a private escape, but the origin point of everything that takes form. Modern physics, after centuries of searching for the smallest building blocks of the universe, has found no solid thing, only energy, vibration, possibility, a cosmic canvas that waits for the painter's brush. And here is the truth you can no longer ignore. You are holding the brush. For most of your life, you may have believed yourself to be a character in someone else's story, following a script written by genetics, circumstance, or luck. But the deeper you look, the more you see that every scene, every chapter was colored by what you accepted as real. Neville's radical claim, assumption hardens into fact, is not mystical exaggeration. It is the lived experience of anyone who has dared to shift their inner state before the outer world gave them permission. The physicist might put it differently. The observer's measurement influences the result. The world you see is not an independent fact. It is a co-creation between the field and the lens through which you view it. And so, the leap you must take is not into more effort, but into more knowing. Close your eyes now and imagine this. There are infinite versions of you standing in the infinite expanse of the quantum field. One is wealthy, one is healed, one is loved beyond measure, one is living in perfect peace. They are all equally real. The question is not whether they exist. The question is, which one will you step into? Neville's answer was always the same. Step into the one you desire now. Wear it like clothing. Let it fit your skin until you cannot remember a time when it was not yours. This is the quantum leap, not a jump through space or time, but a shift in identity. You do not wait for the world to change so you can feel different. You feel different, and the world changes to match. To the outside observer, it will look like coincidence, a phone call out of the blue, a chance meeting, a sudden inexplicable opportunity. To you, it will feel like the most natural thing in the world because you have already lived it within. But here is the challenge and the triumph. You must dare to hold the state even when the senses scream otherwise. Neville's great gift was showing that this is not self-deception. It is self-definition. The old self, tied to the old facts, will try to pull you back. It will whisper, "Be realistic. Look around. Nothing has changed." But you, the true you, knows that the change began the moment you assumed the new state. And the field, obedient and exact, is already rearranging to reflect it. Quantum theory tells us that reality is a dance of probabilities until observation locks it into place. Neville tells us that your assumption is that observation. When you marry the two, you see that you are not a victim of probability. You are the chooser of it. So live boldly. If you desire abundance, walk as one who cannot remember lack. If you desire love, breathe as one whose heart is already full. If you desire health, move as one whose body is already whole. Do not wait for permission slips from the outer world. Write them yourself. The physicist may never stand on a stage and tell you that imagination is God, but Neville did. And the more science looks into the heart of reality, the less it can deny the strange, persistent truth. Consciousness is not a byproduct of matter. It is the foundation from which matter emerges. And if that is so, then your awareness is not a candle flickering in the void. It is the sun itself around which your world orbits. This is why Neville's message still burns decades after he spoke it. Because it is not tied to an era or a culture or a single way of thinking. It is the core truth behind every great act of creation, whether on the canvas, in the laboratory, or in the quiet sanctuary of the human heart. He was not asking you to believe in magic. He was inviting you to remember the laws by which you have always lived, even when you were unaware. And now you are aware. You cannot unknow it. You know that every moment you are choosing by feeling, by assumption, by the lens through which you look. You know that the quantum field is not distant, but here, and it responds to you without hesitation. So the only real question left is, what will you choose now? Tonight, when you close your eyes, let the day fade. Let the facts dissolve. And then, in that quiet, sacred space, choose again. See it, feel it, claim it. Fall asleep as the one who already has it. And tomorrow, rise not to see if it has worked, but to live as though it already has. Because that is the moment the leap becomes the landing. That is the moment the invisible becomes visible. That is the moment you stop chasing your future and begin creating it. Neville would tell you, and I will tell you now, that you are not here to bow to reality. You are here to command it by commanding yourself. And when you do, the quantum field, the particles, the probabilities, the very stars themselves will fall into line, because they are not separate from you. They are you. Now, breathe. Step forward. The field is listening. Your imagination is the law. Your assumption is the command. And reality is already obeying. If this message has awakened something within you, don't let it fade when the video ends. Subscribe now so you never miss the truths that have the power to rewrite your reality. And if you know someone who's ready for their own quantum leap, share this video with them. You might just be the spark that changes their life forever.